Yeah, so I think step one is answering the first variable in that governance equation, and that is, what do we really want to create here? Is
Mhm.
there a legitimate business case we are in employment or deployment of AI makes some business process better? If you can say yes to that, then it's a
Mhm.
matter of documenting your use cases. And once you understand your use cases, then the whole scoping of people, process, technology, that kind of stuff tends to fall into place for you. But if you don't have legitimate use cases, suddenly you just got shadow AI, which is a whole set of other problems that require a whole set of other tools to begin writing.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that would be number one is, do we legitimately need AI to make some process better? If the answer is no, then prohibition may be the right path forward.
We are the Keyboard Samurai, podcast about the business of cyber and tech, here to help you or your business improve. Here's your host, Wil Klu. Let's hack into it now. Hey, everybody, welcome back. Another exciting episode. As always, like, subscribe, all that BS, keep the channel happy. So today, we're going to do a chat on AI governance, and I brought Mr. Patrick here. Patrick, why don't you give everybody the 20, 30 seconds of who you are and why we care?
Absolutely. Will, first of all, thank you for having me. I really am honored to be here, man. Super grateful for you. For your listeners, I'm Patrick Sullivan. I serve as VP of Strategy and Innovation at Align. We're a third-party cybersecurity assurance firm, an assessor firm, if you will. But what I focus on primarily is helping our market understand really the importance of AI governance in general, but more specifically, AI governance for the purpose of really mitigating risk. Because as we think about governance, governance is a value creation process where organizations have an opportunity to create desired outcomes at optimized risk and cost. And so risk, cost, and desired outcomes are all influences in this thing we call governance. And I don't think many organizations completely connect those dots and understand the full burden of the decisions that lay in front of them.
That's interesting. So that leads into right. The first thing that I probably would have asked is, when we're talking about AI and governance, like what does that mean to an organization that doesn't know? Like
That doesn't know.
Yeah.
A big example, and Will, you might see this, see a lot of this, board mandates. Hey, AI is the big new thing. Hey, we've got to either AI enable our processes, AI enable our products, whatever the case may be. So suddenly we have this push from the top down inside organizations to bring AI to bear with loosely, poorly, or sometimes completely undefined goals and expectations. So we think about governance, again, the three variables. What do we want? What risk are we willing to take on? What cost are we willing to bear? We see organizations leading out without a clear idea of what success looks like, which, Will, this necessarily leads to failures. If we don't know where we're going, how on earth are we going to know if we're taking the right path to get there?
Yeah, it's I constantly preaching take some time, think about what you're doing, figure out where you are and where you want to go.
Right.
If you're on a journey, I know the stories about the journey, but in security, we like it to just be clean and straight. We don't want any orcs or diversions.
As humanly possible. Let's work as few times as humanly possible. Yes. Yeah.
So aside from the lack of planning and understanding of outcomes, what's the two or three big things that you see when it comes to AI governance? People, they misunderstand. Maybe they think they're dealing, because I think a lot of us go, I know what governance is. I've been doing GRC forever. I just need to have framework. But and I don't jokingly say, AI is just data at the end of the day. So I'm all the policies exist, just apply your framework to the same thing. But a lot of people don't get that. So what are some of the things that maybe people think they're doing that they should be doing a little differently?
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things, one of the most in your face things, is people think prohibition equals governance. Well, that's just not the case. I mean, we do see
get your funding taken away.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, we see so many orgs burying their head in the sand, saying, "I have a policy that says we won't use AI," which means we're not using AI. And
Sure.
we know that's patently false. I mean, there's legitimate AI use and then there's shadow AI use. And when you put those on a scale across from one another, AI is being used widely and wildly throughout organizations today. So I think that would be the biggest thing. Just because you say no does not mean that your people haven't found ways to use these tools to create legitimate value, if not for your organization, at least for their small purview, their small slice of responsibility inside your organization.
It's funny because I met with a client a while back, and we're all sitting at the big conference table talking, and I had the CIO and the VP of GRC and the CISO, and we're all sitting there chatting, and like our board wants us to use AI, and we just want to make sure we do it right. And I'm like, that's great, I applaud you.
Great.
What are you doing now? He's like, well, we probably, we don't have anything. We probably have some people using email, to write their emails better. And I looked over, I was like, I guarantee you have super users in your world and you don't even know about it. There, Martha, who just for some reason has is super interested in this stuff, has probably got Claude and GPT all running and custom things going on. And she's
1000%. And because you've said no and you've got blocks to these sites, now they're using their own personal devices to get this stuff done, which means necessarily you've got sensitive company information sitting on privately owned equipment, all because you haven't taken the time to be reasonable and realistic about what's happening.
Yeah. Well, I just find it fascinating, like that those of us in technology just assume everybody else is not doing it. And I think a lot of times that may be true, but the reality is it's zero trust. You have to assume the worst, right? You have to assume that somebody is in there doing that. So I guess when you're looking at an organization who is getting started and they're aware there's problems, like what's that? Is there an easy way to, like, I don't want to say a quick fix because I don't like that word, but like, what's step one, and how do you reduce that risk?
Yeah, so I think step one is answering the first variable in that governance equation, and that is, what do we really want to create here? Is there a legitimate business case we are in employment or deployment of AI makes some business process better? If you can say yes to that, then it's a matter of documenting your use cases. And once you understand your use cases, then the whole scoping of people, process, technology, that kind of stuff tends to fall into place for you. But if you don't have legitimate use cases, suddenly you've just got shadow AI, which is a whole set of other problems that require a whole set of other tools to begin writing. But yeah, I think that would be number one is, do we legitimately need AI to make some process better? If the answer is no, then prohibition may be the right path forward. I think the instances of that being true are probably pretty limited today. By and large, in most systems wherein repetitive tasks are required, we do see that AI can bring tons and tons of value. We just have to be sure to implement it responsibly, implement it with a purpose, and then perhaps the biggest thing, Will, that becomes really, really difficult for people is in-context risk assessment. Risk assessment can't be a process of just sitting in a room and brainstorming. Hey, we did a SWOT analysis, so now we've got the full corpus of risks that might affect our organization documented. That's not the case at all. But in-context risk assessment gives organizations an opportunity to say, hey, is the juice really worth the squeeze here? We see that AI can make this business process better, can make us more efficient. But with these associated and accompanying risks, is it really worth it? And we can really start having real conversations inside the organization. We can start doing real planning to ensure that we're not exposing ourselves to become the next news headline.
Sure. I wonder, like, I think about the mid-market and smaller markets, like, and their ability to actually quantify and understand that risk.
It's limited, dude. Absolutely limited. Yeah. And I'm sure you see this all the time. But the reality is, mid-market startups, they're concerned about making money. They want to keep the lights on. I mean, that is the goal. And so to start adding in all these peripheral responsibilities of, well, let's think long term. I don't want to think long term. I've got to make payroll this month. That's my number one problem. So the conversation definitely becomes more nuanced, not necessarily harder, but it becomes different as we look at the focus, the goal of where the company is and their maturation.
And this is where I like to stress this is where a lot of people don't understand, but like this is where your risk appetite comes out, right?
1000%.
Because okay, yes, we all want to do the right. Well, we all the security world want to do the right thing and not impede the business. Like we're here to make money. We get that. But if you're going to make these decisions to, forego governance or forego guardrails, then you need to appropriately understand that. So as security professionals, like how do we communicate that to business owners, leadership boards, whatever it is, and get them to sign off on that?
Well, the only way that I've seen be successful consistently is through the language of business. I mean, there really do have to be conversations not centered around what we find fascinating and interesting, not the tech, but the business side. So the conversation shouldn't be, we've got these vulnerabilities, so we have this technical risk. The conversation should be, we've got these vulnerabilities, so we've got this business risk. These are the potential repercussions should we choose to do nothing.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's great context on what risk appetite goes to. And when I advise people on that part of the process, I always say, go back and look at how other decisions were made in the company, not having to do with IT or cybersecurity. Like, how did they decide on their HRIS system or the ERP or the CRM or whatever, or this new business process or this new team? Like, who was involved, who had influence, what did they look at to kind of make that decision, and then figure out just what their appetite looks like.
And you hit on a really important point. Well, I don't know if you're familiar with ISAC. Used to have this thing they called the business model for information security.
Oh yeah, back in the day, I think so.
Oh, absolutely incredible work. So they took a systems approach to InfoSec inside organizations, and they said, we've got kind of these 4 separate elements that make up this business system. There's the organization, and then people, process, and technology. And between those elements, we've got these dynamic interconnects that function like strings that we can pull on. The dynamic interconnect between people and the organization was something called culture. It surprises me how little attention leaders place on the importance of culture in the decisions and the change that they try to bring to their own organizations.
Yeah, this will drive me down a rabbit hole for sure, because I love talking about that.
Because
for me, well, it's not the culture, it's the fact. Well, I mean, culture is part of it, but I always I try to say all the time, it's always just about people. Like at the end of the day, it's still just about people. And we have so many people in cybersecurity or in risk management, ERM, legal, whatever, that are all very much, well, this is the right way to do things, and so we have to do it that way, or this is and it's like, well, there is no really the right and wrong way.
Right. Right. But why? Tell me why. And if the answer is because we've always done it that way, it's probably not a good answer.
No, exactly. You have to understand, like, the business is here to do the thing the business is here to do. And, it's our job to present those risks and then help them make those decisions. So,
yes. Yeah, you mentioned people being so fundamental. And we say this a lot, and I think at times it falls on deaf ears because we don't really unpack it, but AI is absolutely a socio-technical system. It's really easy to focus on the technology that drives these tools, but the reality is it's the human-computer interaction, the human society interacting with these emerging technologies that make AI what it is. And so to take our eye off that ball and forget that people are a critical part of this process, that's one of the bigger risks I see today, Will, quite frankly.
So let me ask you on that then, from a governance standpoint and just risk management, where does training sit?
Training is critical. Training is absolutely fundamental. So you won't always see it referred to as training in various regulations and various standards. You'll see it referred to as competence, but absolutely having a competent workforce is critical. What I love about this is, I don't know, there's a book written by a guy named Atul Gawande called The Checklist Manifesto. And so kind of the thesis of this book is that humans are destined to fail. And in general, will fail for one of 2 reasons. Either we don't know what the right next step is, so ignorance, or we know what the right next step is, but we just choose not to do it. So incompetence. And so when I do look at how we help people maintain competence, it's by first and foremost helping them understand what the right next step is. Now, we might have ineptitude in some way, shape, or form wherein people know what the right thing is, but still choose not to do it. But we can absolutely control ignorance. we can absolutely remove ignorance from the equation so that we have a smaller pool of people that we have to continue to work on retraining.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's funny because I've had in the last year, especially, so many people say, hey, I want to adopt AI, and I kind of do the same thing you do. I go, well, what do you want to use it for? First off, go ask all your business leaders.
Tell me more. Yeah,
give me the use cases, and then 2, immediately go train your people. Like while you're building your governance, I say you have to have some kind of governance, some kind of guardrails that exists.
Yes.
And then you have to train your people, and not train them on sure, they need to learn how to use the tools probably, but you need to explain to them. It's the whole, just because you write a policy and put it on the SharePoint doesn't mean it's implemented and understood. There's a very big difference between implementing a policy and writing a policy.
It's like the labels on mattresses, do not cut, fear of prosecution, whatever that label. A policy that has not been trained and disseminated through your organization is functionally the same, worthless.
How do you, what, in your opinion or in your experience, what's the best way to train on those policies, especially something because governance in general is a little more businessy termed, but with AI, I think it gets a lot more specific, especially when you're talking to devs and what APIs they can use because of, or what AI, things like that. But then, so I guess just in general speaking, educating an entire organization on a new governance strategy or governance policy for AI, what's that approach look like?
Well, I think it varies depending on the organization, just like risks are contextual based on the organization. I think raising competence level inside your organization follows the same function. That really and truly will. So to your point, in orgs where we do have devs, we might have deployment engineers, we might have X number of various roles. I think in those organizations, because of the size and scale, it becomes really critical to recognize, hey, just like Linux file system rights, owner group world. So as it relates to ensuring that people are trained appropriately, we've got to take an owner group world approach. From the world approach, this is our system, this is our organization. At a high level, this is why we choose to employ AI and what our guardrails are. For your individual group, these are the task-specific things that you need to be aware of. This is really the domain, the guidelines, if you will, for what it looks like for your team, for your group to be successful. And then very specific owner-related functions, wherein we tell people, in your job role, this is the expectation. These are the don't do's. These are the do's. Go be successful. So I do think it's a multi-tiered approach, using too many words to get there. It's a multi-tiered approach, but the reality is one size will never fit all as it relates to ensuring we're training people appropriately.
And I feel like it's tough to do. Well, I don't think it's tough to do. I think a lot of organizations just fly by it and we'll just send out an email or here's a CBT. That's
it. Yeah. Instead of 777, you get maybe a 711, something like that. Yeah.
I haven't figured out how. I mean, I know when I've been a CISO or I'm advising CISOs, when I just talk about training in general, I always kind of similar to what you said, I think it makes a lot of sense to send the security team or person to each department one-on-one, right? Because if you've got all of HR in a room, their jobs they all have different jobs, but they're all focused around the same function, and they're going to open up and ask questions because they know everybody else in the room cares. If you've got an entire company in a room and the CISO sitting there trying to explain something to you, nobody's going to ask questions specific to their domain.
No, because we've all got ego, and none of us wants to be the one that says, I don't understand. But maybe I'm the only idiot in the company, when in reality, 99% of the company doesn't understand, and they don't feel, depending on the culture, I do need to clarify, but in many instances, they just don't feel empowered to really ask those difficult questions, unfortunately.
I take the Simon Sinek approach, and that, I don't know, it's because being a consultant, it's easy to be like, wait, what's that acronym mean again? What does that mean? I'll ask all the stupid questions because I need to make, and then you'll realize after you ask a few stupid questions, there's other people in the room going, yeah, what does that mean?
Help me understand. Yes.
So I want to, before we finish up here, I want to ask a question because I have a theory, but no actual proof in it. But my thought is AI can't, like, nothing's been adopted as fast as AI in the history of the world. Like,
I think
not
you're right.
cell phones, not computers, not the horse, like anything you go back, right? And because there's no competition, no barrier to it. But we definitely adopted it before we had governance in place, before we had security controls in place. And I feel like I think we probably still are in the Wild West a little bit, but there's a lot of data that's been put into public LLMs or in other places. It's all been shared. And I expect some kind of fallout to happen, but I have no idea what that may look like or what that is or when it happens. Do you have any kind of opinion on that?
Will, I mean, I think I share that sentiment. I think the issue I run into is attribution. So yeah, I think sensitive information, in fact, I know sensitive information is there. I think you and I have probably witnessed people place sensitive information and showing us what it is they're trying to do. Yeah, I think the kicker becomes attribution. And at what point does that training data, what point does it actually point a finger back to someone and show that harm was done, that harm was caused? I don't know what that looks like, but I do think that we're going to be asking a lot of these questions over the next couple of years, because to your point, we're so far ahead in deploying AI. We're out over our skis, I think is what the saying is, with deployment versus governance. So we've got, I don't know if you've seen this whole Moltbook and OpenClaw, the stuff going on now with these personal AI agents. So it's worth looking into. It's almost comical. But there's an open source AI agent, a personal AI agent that's been deployed. And so like other agents, it allows skills to be added. One of the skills that you can add to this OpenClaw agent is that it can connect to and begin communicating with a Reddit-like community just for other AI agents. Yeah, so the community itself is called Moltbook. So people people are actually watching these agents get online and communicate with each other and talk about how stupid the humans are and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, it is absolutely fundamentally different than anything we've ever seen before. What do we do with that? I don't know. I don't know how much sensitive company information is making it to online forums that are shepherded by agents. I don't know, Will. I mean, these are all things that will be pressing concerns tomorrow. Today, they're simply curiosities, which is scary.
That is profound stuff right there. Well, Patrick, man, I thank you for joining us, man. This has been great. Where can people find you on the interwebs if they want to?
So LinkedIn's probably the most direct path to find me. Always writing, always posting, always talking about this stuff. So would love for anyone to connect with me, to join the conversation. Those of you that do need assurance services, certification, third-party compliance, align.com, a-lign.com. Check us out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Patrick. This has been awesome.
Well, thank you. Grateful for you, man.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. Follow Will and the podcast on LinkedIn /Wil Klu. Visit Wil Klu ME for information on services he offers to help your cyber or tech business grow. Until next time, Synaculator.